Business and just all outdoor recreation kind of blew up in 2020. So it really kind of carried over from the summer and outdoor activities, and it kind of carried into the winter, and really just it made the skis fly off the shelves.
You know, it was an outlet for a lot of people to be able to go skiing. They couldn't do anything else besides go skiing.
It's really because people have been locked in their houses and they just wanted to get outside, do outdoor activities, and yeah.
Much like in the summertime, people were just itching to get outside. I mean, the bike business was booming, and that kind of carried over into the ski season and wintertime and all those sort of activities.
You know, there was a resilience group of people who really were dedicated to go skiing because they had nothing else to do.
We had a lot of people who were just trying it, who were, had all this free time on their hands, and they just wanted something to do. And that's what you do in the winter, is go skiing and snowboarding.
One of the interesting things that has come out of the pandemic is that people are really looking for ways to get outside and spend time in, a safer place where there's nice airflow. So we've had a lot of people who are very interested in skiing, which is kind of a unique thing to come out of such a troubled time.
But what was interesting was that we had more skiers who had never been to Wachusett before than ever before. So it wasn't necessarily that we had, a lot more beginners, but we had a lot of people who would normally go to Vermont or New Hampshire, but because of the state regulations in place at those different, states and ski areas, that they couldn't make the traveling.
So there were definitely a lot of beginners, but I think what was interesting, we did see a lot more people who were getting back into the sport. So you'd see, people on older equipment that maybe hadn't been out in a few years. And that's completely anecdotal, but I think it's just people are really just looking for a way to get outside, and it's a safe way to spend time with family.
So my experience at the mountains have been a little different depending on where you go. I know some mountains are a little more strict than other mountains, and everyone's kind of doing their own thing to just practice safety.
The biggest thing that we implemented was capacity limits.
And we did have a capacity, it was about at 40%.
Wouldn't sell out on midweek days, but for busy Saturdays and holiday periods, that was really kind of cutting down on the normal number of people that we would have.
All of our lift ticket sales were online this year. Peak periods, we would sell out a week in advance for our lift tickets.
We required online purchase. So we've had online ticket purchasing for a number of years, but it's always been optional. You could buy your ticket, 2 days before, 3 months before, or you could show up day of and buy a ticket in person. This year, because of capacity limitations, because we may sell out on certain dates, we asked folks to purchase online in advance. They would go to our website, select the dates that they wanted to ski. And what was really interesting this year, we added some technology called RFID. It's radio frequency identification. It's the same kind of technology that you would see driving through a toll booth that has Easy Pass. So basically your RFID card allows you to go up to a gate at the chairlift and ride all day long, and you can reload your lift tickets onto that same card. So it's a great sustainability thing. It's a great way to sort of reduce contact with guests and team members.
Just because of our limited capacity, we had to put a cap on. So that's why we had to sell everything online. And so everybody just had to buy in advance, at least a week in advance during peak time.
I can't actually get into the specific numbers of tickets that we sold every day. It did vary by how many how many people we expected to see on the mountain in a given period. We've always had a way of tracking, whether it was by scanning tickets or seeing how many lift tickets we'd sold for the day in previous years. So we made estimates on how many we thought that we could do safely for those busy periods, and then kept kind of a flat rate for our midweek periods because we never really came close to selling out of lift tickets on midweeks.
Our capacity normally is around 4,000. We would sell out very, very rarely on a normal year. But we would only sell out, we would have around 4,100 people there, but we would sell out when our 2 parking lots were full, where we had our upper parking lot completely full, as well as our lower parking lot. But this year we would sell out at around, 1,400 lift tickets sold per session. So, that's about a quarter of what we're normally doing. But then we would have to, factor in how many people would be coming with season passes as well.
Because we're so spread out, as we opened more terrain, we were able to kind of expand that lift ticket capacity limit, because we knew that we could do more skiers safely without having, folks waiting in line too long, or having to gather in crowds to do so.
It was nice that we were able to run ski clubs this year. Usually we have around 10,000 kids in the school programs, and this year we had about 4,000. They had to hire, 3 extra buses in order to socially distance on the bus. So some school programs did do the busing, and then they had to get ready outside the bus, just like on trays and things like that. We had less school program kids, and a lot of school program kids have never skied before and can only go participate in skiing through Wachusett through the school programs, just because it's the least expensive way to go skiing. It's about $20 a day compared to, any other time you're going to go skiing is about $100 a day, most likely. But with school programs, it ends up being about $20 a day, even including lessons. So, with that, I don't think that as many younger beginners were able to come out. The way we really saw the capacity limitations were inside the base lodge.
We also had capacity limitations in our base lodges.
The base lodge was basically empty the entire year.
People, especially families that have a bigger family with kids, they'd have to boot up at their car, eat lunch at their car. So that definitely affected some business for the mountains.
If somebody wanted to go eat in the lodge, they would sign in, give us their contact information, and we could only have a certain number of people in the lodge at one time. Our skier visits for the year, which is usually how we measure our progress and our success season over season, were much lower than they normally are. But that was kind of by design with the capacity limit. So we expected that. Areas like dining were also down in revenue just because we did have capacity limitations in our restaurants. So I think the ways that we saw sort of growth was in activities like ski school, where we were still having limited lessons, but we were able to, do quite a few.
We had our lesson sizes reduced by far. We had about 4 to 5 students per instructor, which normally sometimes we have about 10 to 12 people in the group. But we had a lot more instructors this year because of the state regulations in Vermont. People from Massachusetts that would normally coach, at ski areas on the weekend in Vermont and things like that, just stayed at Wachusett, which was nice. We got to hire a lot more people from the area.
Rental equipment was another one that was up, just because we did see a lot of people who were trying to get back into the sport who maybe didn't have equipment still from when they used to ski.
So usually we start running out our season rentals about mid-November, December, but this year it just seemed like it was a little bit late of a push. But then by December, we were doing tons and tons of season rentals, more than we had ever done that late in the season. We were still end up running out by mid-January. Daily rentals was probably our biggest growth department this year, and I think it's simply due to the fact that people had a lot of apprehension about renting at the mountain, so they wanted to get their skis and get all their stuff ahead of time and get it settled before they went up there. That way all they had to worry about once they went up to New Hampshire was just skiing, or Vermont, wherever they went, was just skiing and having a good time, as opposed to having to do all the peripheral stuff.
For my department personally, and much like the whole store, sales were great. One item in particular that was definitely flying off the shelf, I'd say, were socks, because we couldn't have try-on socks for people. So for anyone who were trying on rental boots or purchasing boots, they had to buy a pair of socks, as well as helmets, because people didn't really want to rent helmets with all of the guidelines and whatnot. Goggles were also flying off the shelves, from our basic goggles all the way up to our most expensive pair. People were just really investing in the sport.
Cross country and snowshoes were definitely the best we've ever sold. I think it will plateau, so we'll still have inventory just to fill in, but we're not going to double up on inventory.
Well, last season was one of our best seasons, and we, weren't expecting necessarily to top it, but we sure did this season.
So actually, we had a great season, one of our best seasons last season before we had to shut down in March. So it was actually very good until we had to shut down.
COVID didn't necessarily affect sales all that much last year because it kind of came into effect towards the end of the season. It more so had an impact on rental returns and that sort of thing. So as far as sales go, we still had a great year. It was one of the best years in Cross Sabres history.
Last year, it really didn't affect us all that much because our season ends right around the middle of March. So when shutdowns were kind of starting to be put into place, we were already kind of wrapping up our season and taking gear back. So it really only affected like season rental returns and stuff like that, and really didn't have a huge impact on sales and customer service.
We had to reach out to all our customers via email or phone call to tell them that they could either keep their equipment and wait till the fall to return it, or they can make an appointment and they could drop it off outside our door when somebody was here, and we'd take it back.
We opened up for the 2021 season at our normal time in August because restrictions were loose enough at that time for us to be open for customers to come into the store, and we kind of just played by all the rules and just kind of let the customers dictate how busy it was going to be. We never really reached capacity because we have a pretty big store, so we never really ran into the issues like that you got at like Home Depots and grocery stores and stuff like that. It was pretty seamless here.
One of the biggest things that was affected was that Bretton Woods did not do their junior lease program anymore because with all of our seasonal rentals, we were doing season passes for juniors. So that was one thing that was axed as long as just selling discounted lift tickets.
So all the mountains would not let us sell off-site tickets because they wanted to limit how many people were at the mountain. So they wouldn't allow us to sell any tickets or bus trips.
A lot of customers that didn't come back, a lot of the families that didn't necessarily make the effort because kids had to quarantine and stuff like that before, if they went out of state and came back. But we saw a lot of people who weren't interested in the sport originally come to the sport. And we saw that coming down from the summertime because golf was really busy and mountain biking and kayaking, and people were just dying to get outside and do stuff. And I thought that was going to trickle down into skiing. I didn't think it would be this much, but I kind of saw it coming.
So the one thing that did stink was probably wearing masks on those really warm spring skiing days and having to deal with goggles fogging up and all that good stuff. But I was just happy that the mountains were open.
Unless you were actively skiing downhill or sitting down to eat, you had to wear a mask during your time here at Sunday River.
Our business in general is socially distanced with masks, with being outside, with skis, you're not too close to people. That it was all pretty good. As far as, just being able to stay safe, that we never really had too many issues in that way.